Ah, the nostalgic PlayStation 1 logo.
Wasn't this shown at the PlayStation 5 conference a few weeks back?
Oh yeah, they like to go back to that well, pretty often. Now, this is one I haven't seen in a long while. Standalone Enix.
This game released in 2000 in the West, which is just a year or two before they merged with Square.
Of course, this would be the first one that you'd stream.
I mean, it just happened to be what I was playing as we decided to work on this project. So yeah, I'm Adam. With me today are Bryan and James. If you listen to our podcast, the TetraCast, you recognize our voices. And we just wanted to start something here at RPG Site where we take a look at RPGs kind of casually once a week. Look at some games, sometimes an older game like this one, Valkyrie Profile, sometimes newer stuff as well. Kind of a variety of the two games, of the two styles of games, if you will, for this video series. And this is meant to just be like a casual chat about the game as one of us plays it here on our YouTube channel. So this is our first video. So hopefully it isn't too awkward. Bear with us. And hopefully we can look at this video.
Go easy on us.
Yeah, like years from now and like, you know what, that wasn't too bad. But so today I'm looking
obviously as a genre site, we do cover new RPGs as they come out, but we do like to go back to, obviously we do the anniversaries on our Twitter page, and like to go back to retrospectives like James's Xenoblade Cross. Not quite a classic, but maybe a cult classic or getting there.
Classic to me, damn it.
But Valkyrie Profile, what a better one to start with for a classic mode look at an RPG that you have a high opinion on. Yeah, now, you've obviously played this. I have not.
Yeah, so Valkyrie Profile is an RPG. It released on the original PlayStation in 1999 in Japan, 2000 in the West. It's developed by Tri-Ace, who is more well known for like the Star Ocean series. And they do a lot of work with Square Enix games. I think one of their more recent releases was Resonance of Fate, the remaster that came out about a year and a half ago. But Valkyrie Profile is one of my favorite games of theirs. And so Valkyrie Profile here is a side-scroller RPG. I've already beaten this game several times, and you might have seen my save file there, but I just loaded up a save in the middle of the game here. So the premise of Valkyrie Profile, in a nutshell, is that you play as the Valkyrie, and you're tasked with basically recruiting the souls of dead humans to basically fight wars for your boss, the god Odin. So you can see I have a party of humans here. I have plenty more that I can choose from. And the game has a lot of different mechanics that come into play when it relates to training up these warriors. And every once in a while you actually do have to send one off to Odin in Valhalla to fight battles for you. So there's this interesting dynamic of characters you get to keep, characters you have to send, and the structure of the game is pretty unique. Valkyrie Profile has a lot of things that are unique about it, but the overall structure is one of those. So what you're going to actually, the first thing you're going to see here is I'm going to get a status report from Freya, who is another god, who's basically telling me how well I'm doing as a Valkyrie. So that'll be the very first thing we see.
I will say the first things that come to mind to me that looked really nice was the music is great, and I love the sprite work.
Yeah, it's a 2D RPG on the PlayStation. In a way, those have aged better because they're sprites.
It has been a long time, Lenneth. Our current situation is as...
Some voice acting, early PS1 stuff, or late PS1.
No.
Our current situation is our forces are routing the enemy. If things continue as they are, all is well.
Yeah, so it's a PS1 game with a fair amount of voice acting in it. What's actually kind of interesting about the English voice cast is that it was largely done by the same pool of actors that did the classic Pokemon dub, English dub. And for example, Freya here is actually the same voice as Ash, the original Ash English voice.
Wow, that...
Yeah, it's a different style of voice. Actually, let me double check that really quick, just to make sure I'm not...
It's Veronica Taylor?
Yeah, Veronica Taylor. I'm just going to just check that really quick, just to make sure I'm being accurate here. Valkyrie Profile Wiki, Freya, English voice, Veronica Taylor. Yeah, that's Ash.
Cool. Do you wish to know the status of our unherited...
I think it's pretty good voice acting, considering this was like 1999, before a lot of games had any voice acting.
It is magnificent. These Those are all
Yeah, I'd say it sounds
materialized
pretty
points
good,
I can
like,
grant you at this time. The
I mean,
Lord
in many
Odin
ways,
is
at
pleased
least
with
from
you.
these short
He
clips,
bids
Yeah.
me give you
it
these
sounds
artifacts.
more consistent than I'd say maybe the
Well, like
Trials of Mana dub.
Or something like Grandia, which also released on PlayStation, has clearly worse.
That's a good comparison where you think of a game that doesn't quite shine through.
Anyways,
in
what
its
Freya
voice
is doing
performance.
is basically judging how good of a Valkyrie I've been, and that basically depends on the types of warriors you send her. If you weren't paying attention, she just gave me materialized points and items, basically weapons and things I can use. And now she's going to tell me what type of warrior she wants me to send for this chapter.
We must form a platoon that can battle the dragons. We need someone who fears not death, one who will fight to the last.
So she tells me I need basically hero value is a point value that's given to these Einherjar. Einherjar are these warriors in Nordic verbiage, and I need someone with brave, sorcerer, monster int, and hit. It doesn't have to be all one person, but those are the demands that she's
We must
making.
perform a ceremony. We need a sorcerer, wise in the lore of magic. We need an Einherjar, wise in the lore of monsters. We need
Oh, so now she's just going over the
swordsmen.
list.
Send
Alright.
us
Yeah.
a warrior who knows how to... Very well. Good fortune. I expect mighty deed.
Now, does that change from gameplay to game from game
Actually,
to game?
no,
or does
it's
it?
the same every time. So,
So this is probably tabulated somewhere.
yeah, like there's guides that tell you this chapter, this person or this person is the best person to send. So Valkyrie Profile has a couple of unique elements to it. In a nutshell, I would say, first of all, I'm not really trying to sell people on the game. In fact, I think it's a very hard game to sell people on because it's so different and weird. The point of this video series is just to kind of highlight them, highlight various games in various ways. But one of Valkyrie Profile's components is that each chapter you have a limited amount of actions you can perform. You'll see in the lower left there, it says Chapter 6, period 0 out of 28. Periods are basically actions that you can perform, whether it's going through a dungeon or going through a story point. And you can only do so many of these. And once I do 28 of them in this chapter, basically Freya will summon me again. And again, you'll just see what I just saw telling me how I'm doing. And
So you basically have 28 days to find
yeah.
a warrior or warriors that satisfy those requirements.
Yeah, so the first thing you do in any chapter is, I believe it's called Spiritual Resonance, something like that. If it's not exactly that, it's close. Where basically she's seeking out souls that could join the army.
Please, I beg of you, sir. Please keep this a secret. No!
I see. That's how it is.
There's Meow's voice actor.
Good catch.
Before the battle begins, Magnus will perform a rite of blessing to bolster the troops' morale. This will be our own.
So you're basically hearing like a snippet of this chapter's
If this goes any further,
stories.
knights will be
Yeah, so Valkyrie Profile, at least for the first half or maybe even 2/3 of the game, most of the storyline is not like a linear A to B story like most RPGs, or anime RPGs anyway, but it's more this vignette style story where you basically experience these separated, sometimes loosely connected stories of the characters that you recruit. And there's a little bit of randomness there in terms of which ones appear in which order. Ultimately, they're all of them are available in all playthroughs, but just the order in which they appear changes. So basically, the first part of every chapter is this resonance where the game will basically highlight there are stories in this place, there's a new dungeon here. So let me just get through that real quick.
So that one wasn't a story. You just said
Yeah, that was just a new
of the Sunken
dungeon,
Shrine.
the Sunken Shrine. And here's another story.
And each time we do those resonance, does it count as one of those, like, does it count
Yes.
down the number of actions? Okay.
Yeah, each of these actually counts as 2. Some actions are 1, some are 2.
I just wanted to try out the recipe.
Now, to be honest, you can skip all of this if you want. If I wanted to, I could
Kind
just
of
skip.
bumble around.
Sorry?
And just kind of bumble around and
Yeah.
figure, like, things out yourself.
Yeah, there's actually various endings to this game. I'll get into that more later. But one of the endings is if you're basically a terrible Valkyrie and like never send anyone and sort of just report to Freya with nothing in hand, eventually she actually gets mad at you and basically fights you as a super boss. She's very hard to beat, but even if you beat her, whether you're cheating or miraculously, it doesn't matter. You basically get the bad ending. So now you see I
Yeah,
have,
even when you win, you lose.
yeah, I have 6 periods used. There's one more.
Can you do those stories even if you don't resonate with them, or do you have to resonate
I
with them?
think you
see
have to
them?
resonate to have them show up, like when you visit.
So how do you know like how many resonance you need to do in order to?
You can
find
just keep
everything?
doing them until they basically stop appearing. Like for
That one's
example,
just a redundant.
if I do it again, nothing will happen and it doesn't waste any time. So it's not like you can.
Alright.
It's not like you can accidentally waste time seeking resonance that don't exist. So here's the
So-
world map. You don't need an airship when you're a Valkyrie. You can just fly. White dots are cities, and each of these cities had a story at one point. Red dots are dungeons. You know, some of these dungeons are older dungeons. Some of them are new ones that just appeared on the map. I know which ones just appeared just because I'm familiar with the game, but that's basically the map. And so I'm going to go ahead and start by doing one of these story vignettes, I think. I'll do this one up here. So like I said, this
It's one of the ones that appeared with the resonance.
Yeah, so like I said, a lot of this game is basically these individual vignettes that star the characters that you recruit. Now remember, you're a Valkyrie and you're recruiting people who die. So all these stories have a similar ending, and they're all kind of dreary in a way. But I'll just let it play here. And I should mention that this is about 4 or 5 minutes long, I think, in total.
Carried on the wind?
So does the player have familiarity with these characters at this point, with this person?
1 second.
I think I'm more like a willow tree.
Ha! As if!
There's no going back now, is there?
I like the style of it.
You've come this far and now you want to go home?
That's not it. I know we can't.
Yeah, well, I gave up all hope of that a long time ago.
Again, just want to shout out that I love the sprite work. It's very expressive and emotive for what it is.
Yeah, so I should mention that there is a little bit of larger context here that you won't have. Celia is a part of a group. You might have seen I actually have Cashel in my party and Aelia in my party as well already. So she's part of a group of knights that, unfortunately, for various reasons, each of them have fallen in battle or other reasons, and she's like one of the last ones left. She recently learned that one of her former friends, Gray, from all appearances, Gray seems to have killed another girl named Lemia, and no one knows why, and she's basically going to confront him for this.
So some of the stories do have like overarching narratives.
Yeah, they're not like directly linked, but there's loose connections between them.
I like the portrait art as well.
Yeah, it's got this kind of Western style to it. Remember, this game is set with
Yeah,
like Nordic terms, like Nordic mythology.
feel like a broken record, but man, like I'm engaged even though I haven't had the context here. I love the presentation of this. All right, I wasn't expecting that. I assumed she was going to be the one to die. One of them was.
The artwork for Valkyrie Profile.
You're trying to figure out who did?
Yep.
You have lost your body and exist only through the ritual of soul transfer.
I am not
Like
worthy
FMA
to be
style,
chosen
Fullmetal
by
Alchemist.
you.
Human, you have indeed defiled souls, blasphemed against the gods. One who has acted as a sacrifice for the soul transfer cannot be saved through the same means.
So there was nothing I could do after all. I am worthless. I must be judged. I must atone.
Become then as a blade for the gods to wield. Therein lies your path to salvation.
I definitely do see the comparison to the Lost Odyssey dream stories that you made in the podcast.
Yeah. So one thing I want to emphasize is while there is a little bit of context you were missing, the game still leaves quite a bit up to like inference or interpretation as well. So if you didn't catch it, basically what happened there is Gray didn't actually kill Lemia. What happened was Gray was killed in battle, and Lemia did a technique called soul transfer to basically sacrifice her life for his. And then he, upon realizing this, tried to return the favor. But if you paid attention to what Valkyrie said, one who's been a sacrifice cannot be returned the same way. So when Gray tried to return his life back to Lemia, it basically transferred to his armor instead. And that's what happened. And the game doesn't like explicitly state that outright. You kind of just have to gather that from the dialogue there. And yes, a little bit of context elsewhere, but really there wasn't a whole lot you missed. And I just appreciate games that trust the player to make
They
those.
respect that you have a brain.
Yeah, rather than just saying it or showing it outright so deliberately. So anyways, yeah, so now he's on my team. I'm actually playing in hard mode. So what that means is each character that joins at level 1. You know, it makes it a little harder.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Oh, where is he? Here. It makes it a little bit harder because then you have to it's a little bit trickier to catch them up, although not too bad. But I'm going to stick with my party here. And for example, this Alia person, you might have seen her name in that vignette. She's part of that group as well. So is Cashel, I think I have in here somewhere. Yeah, there. So yeah, there's a variety of characters in this game, you know. Like this guy is a great sword wielder. That's a bow person, a mage, long sword. He's a great sword wielder as well, and so on. So you can have quite a bit of variety in terms of like your character party. And like I mentioned before, you have to send certain characters to Freya every chapter. So there's this interesting dynamic where some characters you train up to keep, like so your battle capability stays good, but some you have to train up to send off. So it's kind of interesting in that way.
So your party ends up being kind of like this revolving door in a way.
Yeah, and you were mentioning the artwork before, and like I said, I really like the art. It's got this Western style to it. There are a couple
Like
characters.
a painterly.
Yeah.
Well, this is interesting. So I found out one of the guys that worked on the art for Valkyrie Profile, Yo Yoshinari, and at least his Wikipedia page says that he was a key animator on Neon Genesis Evangelion. He was a key animator on Fooly Cooly. He did key animation for Die Buster. He was the animation director for Duran Lagann. And he's the director for Brand New Animal, which is an anime that just kind of came out.
That's interesting.
So that's actually pretty interesting.
All right, so now I'm going to do a dungeon area. And so it tells you here, like, it gives like a quick... Some dungeons don't really have any story to them, like this dungeon doesn't, but it gives like a quick, you know, description of how it fits in the world. And it tells me it's going
Sunken Shrine was one of the ones that you resonated.
Yeah.
It first came available this chapter.
Yeah, so it's the new dungeon. It tells me it's going to take 2 periods to do it.
Okay.
So let's look at some gameplay. Let's see here. I want to make sure I have a certain weapon equipped. Okay, I'm equipping a glare sword just because I know it's useful in this dungeon. Oh, actually there's... Shoot. Oh, I can do it later.
I don't want to digging this soundtrack.
I was gonna say the same thing. Like, I don't want it to just be a meaningless platitude, just to praise it over and over again. I'm like, man, this track is awesome.
Yeah,
man,
so
this is even better.
The composer for this game is Motoi Sakuraba. He's done a ton of like Star Ocean and Tales games. Personally, I think, and this is not a too uncommon of a criticism, but some of his stuff, like in the later 2000s, kind of ends up feeling a little bit samey, where his different soundtracks from different games sort of all sound very, very similar to each other. And I get that criticism. I think Valkyrie Profile kind of has a unique style to it, where a lot of the dungeon tracks like this one are a little bit more rhythmic, so a lot of percussion, there's a little bit more techno in places, and we'll get into a battle here. So, yeah. So like I said, it's a 2D RPG. I can only move left and right and jump. There's some light platforming. I'm underwater, but I'm dead, so it doesn't matter.
To my side, my noble Einherjar.
Alright, so here's the combat system.
Now this is more my style.
Okay. By the way, one of my characters is voiced by the Ash voice actor. Sounds just like him. And one of my characters is voiced by Jesse. So you might hear them shouting things here and there. But so this is one of Valkyrie Profile's most distinct elements that other games have emulated, such as even like Indivisible last year. Each of my characters is tied to a face button, and you can see that in the upper right. And it also shows you how many actions they get. So like Valkyrie is tied to square and she gets 2 actions. Aelia is tied to triangle and gets 3, and so on. And so you can see the rest of the UI there. So there's a bit of a timing element to this. When I press square, Valkyrie will attack. If I press triangle, Aelia will attack. But if you just mash all the buttons kind of randomly and all at once, while it's somewhat effective, it's not as effective as it could be. Let me actually just do that.
Looks like that worked for me.
Oh, I forgot that I equipped a weapon that's super effective against these guys. And he's big. But so some enemies you can get away with just mashing buttons like that.
Our work here is done. Let's go.
I'm assuming depending on the characters, like their attacks might juggle them, so you might want to buffer your inputs. So you.
Yep. Like for example, Aelia, the spear woman there, her second attack is like a lunge, but if you do it too fast, she's almost always going to miss. So in terms of strategy using her, you generally want to wait a bit before doing her second and follow-up attacks, because she's more likely to hit that way. So this game does have some light puzzling and platforming as part of the normal gameplay. Actually, just for fun, I'm going to remove the super effective weapon, or else these enemies are going to be super basic. I'm a little bit over-leveled as well. And these enemies are a bit smaller than an octopus, so they're a little bit harder to hit. And yes, like, there are hitboxes on the sprites, and, like, for example, Arngrim. Arngrim is the big sword guy there with the huge sword. His first attack is like a horizontal swing, and if the enemy is too short, he'll just whiff and swing right over him. So like Valkyrie's attack, one of them will launch him in the air a bit, and that way he can hit. I think these guys should be
sort of what James is getting at.
Yeah, but I'm actually going to try to time this pretty well if they don't guard.
Oh, the poor guy.
I missed with a couple of them. So you see on the bottom there, so there's only one health bar shown at any time, and that's basically the health bar of the person being attacked. I guess I probably have an icicle sword equipped, which does no
I
damage.
see this foe will not fall.
Very good.
I don't have
That
good
bar on the
weapons.
left of the health.
Yeah. Okay, so what's happening is, yeah, I'm not doing any damage to these guys. Every hit fills up that hit meter on the left there, that green one. And when it fills up to 100, you can do a super attack. And I'm actually doing these super attacks in a deliberate order. You want to do Alia's last because hers only does 1 hit, but it's a strong hit. And the more hits that are on the meter, the stronger it is. So you don't want to do this attack first because it won't fill up the green meter and it won't be as strong.
Impossible.
Okay.
I just like how you like launch super attacks on this. Little,
These
like,
crabs
super
are
crab.
too strong. Oh, he fainted. See, I actually forgot to equip. Keep that in mind. How Arngrim is fainted right now. All right. I think what I'm actually gonna have to do. I have the wrong weapons equipped.
Yeah.
These guys are too strong.
Can your mage in the back get him?
The attacks, they do nothing.
I think I have a bunch of water weapons equipped, which is not good. I'm just actually gonna run from this battle. If
I love how
that's me.
they're called red lobsters, but
They're clearly crabs.
yeah.
So you went from equipping the powerful weapon to one that is absolutely ineffective.
Let's see here. Yeah, you have an icicle sword, which does ice damage, which is probably not the best. And you have an icicle sword. Here, you equip the glare sword. So a lot of the enemies in this dungeon are weak to poison, and actually this sword has a special... This is actually a very good sword for this point in the game. If an enemy is weak to poison, it's a one-hit KO, which is why it says poison/death. And also on the screen here, where it says like attack 1200 and underneath it, what that's saying is that each character has 3 potential attacks they can do. This sword allows him to do his first attack, which is a horizontal swing, and his third attack, which is a kind of like a backhand with his offhand. But not every weapon is like that. For example, this weapon, he does his second attack, which is a vertical swing, and his third attack, which is the backhand. And different weapons have different...
Are weapons represented in battle visually?
No. But it affects
So
which
yeah,
attacks
stock
they can
looks
do.
like the glare sword.
Let's see, what is your weapon? They must be weak to fire too, or strong against fire too.
Oh, so there's like weapon categories, like I think, because it looked like Valkyrie and Arngrim were both wielding swords, and this person who uses spears has a different set.
Oh yeah,
to
she's
select
yeah.
from.
So like her weapons are spears, and there's a couple of spear users. Arngrim actually can equip both, basically one-handed and two-handed swords.
Ah, I see.
And then she uses spears, she uses staves, and then there's other characters that use bows, like this guy. And then I think
it's a crossbow.
it's a crossbow.
I see.
Ah, okay.
It looks like just like a pistol or like a revolver.
Yeah. He's actually a very good
Just from that
gunner.
angle.
Here, I'm gonna, now that I have a weapon that's super effective against these guys, I'm gonna just cream them.
It's payback time.
Yeah, the stupid crabs.
To my side, my noble
Lobsters.
Ontario.
Lobsters.
This won't
If he doesn't guard, there you go. Enemies do have a
somebody
chance.
wanted to play. Sorry.
I was just gonna say,
go
enemies
ahead,
do have a
Jim.
chance to guard basically any attack.
What were you gonna say, James?
So if somebody wanted to play this game now, where is this playable?
Yeah, so
Which
that's
platforms?
there's actually an interesting shoot. Stop guarding. Okay, anyways, so this is the PS1 version of the game, which actually in some respects is the best. It's got a weird release history where... So this was the original version. It came out in Japan in 1999, and then when they localized it to the West in 2000, there is actually... This is actually not too uncommon back then, but they fixed some bugs and added some quality of life things in the localization that don't exist in the Japanese version. For example, in the item screen here, I can sort items and everything is sorted. So I can do alphabetical order, or I can do type order, you know, so on. That didn't exist in the Japanese version of the game. And there's also some other bugs in the Japanese version of the game that were fixed in this version. But this game later got a port to PSP, and that version of the game was based off the Japanese version. And even when they localized the PSP version, it was still based off the Japanese version. So that led to an interesting, basically, dynamic where... Oops, where the North American PS1 version has some bug fixes that no other version has, including the PSP version or the recently released mobile version. But to answer your question directly, if you want to play this game, it's not available digitally on PlayStation or for PSP or PlayStation 1. So if you want to play those versions, like the version I'm playing now, you have to have a disc. But the most readily available version is actually a mobile port of the PSP version that came out in like 2018. The mobile version is still, like, that's actually the version, I played the PSP version first, and I adore the game, I fell in love with it, even if it's not like the perfect version, so I think it's pretty good, but it doesn't have some of those bug fixes or quality of life things, and also the screen aspect ratio is a little different. You can see this has a standard PlayStation aspect ratio. They kind of cropped it a bit, pretty standard stuff when they put it onto PlayStation on PSP, which is more widescreen. So it's not like the perfect aspect ratio. It's still not bad.
Actually, so you're playing on a PS1 disc.
Yeah. I'm actually playing it on a PlayStation 3 and capturing it there just because it's convenient. I'm actually gonna fight this guy.
I'm curious. So have you played the mobile version? How does it stack up?
I've played it. It's just like the PSP version, but it's all touchscreen based, and that's a little bit weird.
Support controllers?
I think it does. So if you guys didn't notice, I actually equipped a. It does support. I think it supports controllers. The mobile version does. I just haven't tried it.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in playing this now, so I'm trying to figure out which version I want to play, because I could find the PS1 disc, and I assume it's not too difficult to find one.
It's pretty expensive, actually. It's about $150. I shelled out for it.
Christ.
Yeah. So I actually, just to mention what I'm doing here, I actually equipped this accessory, which is basically a way to skip battles. So even back then, while there are no random encounters in this game, there is a mechanism to avoid battles. I'll probably put that on in a bit here just for the sake of time, but I'm going to fight this guy because he's angry.
I like the design of this guy.
Yeah. He's big, so he's easy to combo on. Don't stop fighting. So if you notice, I purposely saved Alia's second attacks for later, because if I do them too fast, she'll basically just totally whiff with her spear. So the timing is not like too precise. You don't have to be like, frame perfect or anything like that. But there are some considerations that you have to make. And now I'm actually doing damage.
It's always a good sign.
Yeah.
So what is the mage's special attack?
I wonder if I can do it. No, I can't. You can only do the mages every once in a while. It's a little bit more finicky. It's kind of weird hearing Ash say, "My soul burns."
I was just gonna say that does sound like Ash.
I wonder if this will kill him. Maybe. Yeah, it's a pretty strong attack.
You're no match for me.
Who's a bat rat? Who's that?
Who's what?
There's like a flying little bat thing.
Oh, that's my mage
party.
So this mage can only do spells every once in a while. And when she can't cast a spell, she can attack with her familiar instead. Now I'm going to do some puzzle elements here for a bit, so I'm going to turn on the no encounters. Just for the sake of time. And yes, this is a dungeon that is basically a water level puzzle dungeon that everyone loves so much.
Well, at least it seems like it doesn't affect, like you don't have like a air meter, or you can't like swim up and down. So half expecting the Sonic drowning music to just jump in at any moment.
Oops, I forgot a step. But yeah, this game does have some light puzzle elements, like there's some platforming. I can show it later, but Valkyrie can create crystals that do various things. She can create crystals that work as platforms, or can be used in other puzzles in various ways, which I'll actually see in a bit. Or shoot. I did this in the wrong order. We all love these dungeons.
Having flashbacks of like For me, it's not the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time that I think about. I think of Jabu Jabu's Belly in Oracle of Ages. I have been stuck on that dungeon for forever as a child. And just seeing you like flip switches, just raise or lower the water level.
Yeah.
I'm like stressed out.
Anyways, it definitely sounds like the most accessible version would have to be the phone version.
Yeah, the phone version also has a few cheats in there where it's like they're microtransactions, so it's like a premium game, but you can buy like I think there's like 300% experience or something like that. So maybe makes it easier. Let's see here. So here are the crystals I can form, and like these have various properties. You can jump on them, make platforms and things. But here, I'm actually gonna break it, pick it up.
Oh, I wouldn't have expected that you can do that. Like,
So the game actually doesn't.
For it and everything.
What's actually kind of interesting is the game doesn't tell you or even hint how to do this. You sort of just have to figure it out. So I hit a switch with a crystal, and another puzzle. Darn it. There we go.
Does the game like slowly teach you this as you go through the chapters about like?
Well, like there's an earlier dungeon where there's like a laser and like there doesn't seem to be anything you can do, and I guess it hopefully, you know.
At some point, you're gonna lay down the crystal and see.
Yeah. All right, here I'm gonna do something a little bit different with the crystal.
And you can't make them underwater, so you
No,
gotta
you have to carry
in.
them into the water.
Man, this would be frustrating if you had. Well, I guess normally you just clear out the enemies and then do this.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just doing that for the sake of time. I'm a little bit over leveled anyway. Float on the crystal.
I would not have expected that you
really
can do
neat.
that. Yeah.
This is more switches. Okay.
So the monsters on screen
They're like
don't always
icons.
represent who they are in battle.
Yeah, sometimes they do, but like that little land thing can be a variety of different types of monsters.
It's like a category of monster or something
Yeah.
like that.
But there is like a general, like the skull guy there is usually going to be like flying spirit type monsters. You saw the crabs earlier. I think this one is going to be like a Sahagin type character or type enemy. Hit the switches. All right, I already know what's going to happen in here. Don't squish me. Okay. Can't jump high in water, so do this. It's gonna explode. Okay. So this is a skill book. So this game does have standard levels and stats and things like that, but each character also has a set of skills. Valkyrie, of course, being my main character, and I kind of know how to abuse this game, is she basically has all of her skills maxed already. So these skills have different, some of them, so like the A skills are reaction skills. You may have noticed in battle that sometimes first aid just happens randomly. It literally is just like a skill that appears randomly, 15% chance of restoring DME when injury occurs. DME is HP in this game. They call it DME because you're dead. So it's divine material energy and not HP, but it's effectively HP. Support skills are like a passive buff. Attack skills are basically skills that affect how your attacks work. Like for example, Dark, you have a chance to attack from the rear instead and basically avoid them guarding. And then status skills are more like passive stats. Like for example, attack power, raise the strength skill level times 30. So since her attack power skill is level 8, that raises her strength by 240. So.
And that's the sort of stuff that Freya was looking for earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
Bring
so
me
like
someone that
she
knows
said, I
Monster
think.
Int.
Yeah, someone who knows Monster Int. So like, make sure you send a person with the Monster Int skill as high as possible.
I'm guessing you're not planning on sending these.
Yeah, the party I'm using is basically one I've decided to keep. But like for example, Cashel here actually would make a good. I think they want. Oh, there's also traits. I think she wanted someone with the trait Brave. So Cashel is not brave. He's emotional, focused, obtuse. He's got a high hero value, but he doesn't have
relate
brave.
Cashel.
Yeah. Arngrim and Mistina here are actually like story important characters, and you actually cannot transfer them, which is one reason why I'm using them. All right.
So at some point you have to swap in someone to learn those skills, right?
Yeah. So basically, when you're
Would
playing
you do that like at the end of the month or whatever?
yeah,
At the end of the
you have to,
chapter?
it's best to save some periods to basically make sure you have some
Go get
time to
the
train up
requirement.
enemies.
Yeah.
I think I want to fight this guy. I'm just trying to remind myself where I am. Oh, let me do this puzzle first. Shoot. Damn it, I'll have to wait till the next one. No!
Well, if they stay active, you just have to
Come on,
like
come on,
keep-
come on, come on. Yeah. I'm just gonna fight another one of these guys, just for fun.
Now I want to see the mage do something.
Sure, I'll try.
Mistina. If I decide, like, let's say you just got that gray character, but you want to try him out and use him, how hard is it to like put him in and like?
If he survives a battle, like you can clear out an enemy group, and he, even if he's kind of useless but survives, he'll gain enough EXP to gain like probably 3 or 4 levels just in one battle. It scales well enough that like gaining the first 10 levels or so is not too bad, and after you kind of force feed them just a few battles, they become pretty useful. Now these guys actually have an interesting property. It's a pretty common thing found in turn-based RPGs. I have to kill them at the same time, or else one will revive the other.
Gotcha.
So let's try it.
But you can only target one.
Yeah. There we go.
You must desire respite from my entity. Thou shalt depart.
There is some audio issues in this game, like, for example, her voice line when she's doing her special attack here is for some reason very muted. But like I said, I think it's pretty good considering this came out in like 2000, before voice acting was relatively commonplace in games at all. Okay, I don't want to kill him.
I won't lose.
Valkyrie has an armlet on that can prevent attacks. Now see how Mistina's on her bar at the bottom there has 5 little red dots? Those are, I forget what CT stands for, but it's a meter that basically means 5 turns have to pass before she can use a spell again. Or, you might notice when I fight enemies, sometimes certain little items will drop from them. If it's like a red spherical orb, that basically is one of those red little flashing icons. It basically eliminates one. So you automatically gain 1 per turn, but you can get more by doing good combos and basically allow her to do spells more often. So let's see if I can get any. There's
Seems like
one.
a well-made system.
Yeah, there's 2, 3.
What are the blue ones?
Okay, there's 4.
My
Damn it, I hope this doesn't kill him.
burns. My power has
What were the
awakened.
blue orbs that dropped?
So the blue, like, more crystally ones are actually additional EXP.
Ah,
This will probably kill him. Hope it doesn't. A rare case where I hope this doesn't kill the enemy. Yes, good.
This one is strong.
just as planned.
And he dropped an item too. Damn it. I need to get rid of that feint. Alright. So Aelia, it actually went to a lot of Aelias, so you're almost dead, and you're... I'm just gonna be careful here and use an item on you. I'm actually gonna get rid of that feint thing soon here. Okay, I'm just gonna weaken you.
What happens if you don't kill them at the same time?
One will revive the other at full health.
Like instantly?
Yes. Or their next
Because
turn.
normally there's like a buffer window where
It's
you
their
can...
next turn. Alright.
They're both pretty weak.
I think I'm gonna play careful here and just try to weaken this guy a little bit more. Ah, shoot.
Uh-oh.
Okay, if I'm lucky... Okay, Arngrim and Aelia have attacks, so hopefully you don't guard. There we go. Good. So just kind of an interesting dynamic for some battles. Those guys give a lot of experience too. Level ups. So see, I dropped 1 magic gem, so that raised my experience from 33,600 to 35,280. So if you know what you're doing and you have certain items equipped, you can
Oh yeah, raw Oculus meat.
You can basically have enemies drop lots of crystals to kind of give you a lot of bonus experience. Alright, I'm going to equip the no encounters thing again. Alright, so here's another interesting element to Valkyrie Profile. There are no shops. Instead, well, there's no like traditional shops. Instead, do you remember at the very beginning of this chapter when Freya gave me Materialized points and items? Materialized points are used in this Divine Item system. So Divine Item is basically a shop that you can access from save points. And you see I have 46,000 Materialized points, and you can create certain types of items with it, and weapons, and armor. And of course, certain
This seems very, like, it's been a while since I've played any of them, but this seems very Star Ocean.
Yes,
DNA.
there are a lot of systems in this game that are very Tri-Ace. I mean, obviously it's a Tri-Ace game. So I'm actually going to create a stun check. This one. Actually, I might create 2 of these. Create 2 stun checks. You remember in that last battle, Arngrim got like fainted? I'm going to equip on him a stun check, which charm which renders user invulnerable to faint, which means that can no longer happen. It also reduces his fire damage by 50, which those guys have that fire attack, so that probably would have been useful to have. I'm going to equip that. I'm also going to put one on you. Okay. Alright, everyone is pretty well healed. Now, for this boss coming up, I actually want to equip a certain skill. I don't need Cure Condition, I need Guts. So I'm going to put Guts on everyone. Guts. Even when a mortal wound is taken, DME retains at a certain level. Chance of happening increases with skill level. Alright.
That's pretty typical. Like, when I read that description, I think of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of high-level Kingdom Hearts relies on that last chance or whatever.
Actually, just to be absolutely careful here, because this boss has a strong super attack. I'm also giving them the auto item, and I'm having them. Basically, auto item is you can set any item for them to use automatically in certain conditions. I'm basically giving them the auto item for this game's version of Phoenix Down.
Okay.
Basically,
that seems like something that would be useful to have all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to waste Phoenix Down, sort of thing, but
I see.
For this boss, he has a chance of killing you in one hit. So Guts plus auto item Phoenix Down, or in this game it's called.
Now, what if you didn't know any of this?
Well, there's
Can you
a save point.
beforehand, or what?
Yeah, there's a save point
okay.
here.
Can your sword guy equip something in his last spot?
Yeah, but none of them are useful.
Okay.
Alright, I think I'm just going to create 10 more of these plumes. So now I have a good set of them. Alright, I'm going to save.
Speaking of plumes, Covenant of the Plume is the only Valkyrie Profile game I've played. I don't remember like a lick about it.
Actually, I'm going to forego saving just because I want to keep the save file. That where it is. So I'm just going to...
You're confident.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose, it actually isn't a game over. What happens is it kicks you out of the dungeon. So basically, you wasted
and you
periods.
lose a period, yeah.
Yeah. Some dungeons have more like relevant story stuff than others. This is just kind of a random dungeon. It's not random, but just a wraith at the end of a shrunken shrine.
Come to me, Dark Warriors. Battle awaits us.
All right. You
Her
can't stun me
opening
anymore.
thing was different.
Yeah, for bosses. All right. I'm probably gonna be able to do a lot of damage to him, but not a bunch of damage, or not like all of his damage. And he's probably going to counter with like a super move, which is why I just set up those skills.
So why'd you pick this one instead of the other one?
Other what?
Like instead of doing the Nibble and Valesti or the other attacks?
Actually, Valkyrie missed, so she won't be able to do her special attack. Or you dodged it.
Oh.
And I think Aelia didn't connect either, so... But I can probably do him on the next turn. Alright, did about half his damage.
You're next.
Alright, super attack. Hopefully this doesn't wipe me out. It might.
Oh, you have guts equipped, right? So
It only has a chance of working though.
Curse you!
is that okay?
Yes.
All right. I see.
Alright.
I mean, it seemed like you'd be kind of screwed if you didn't have that set up, and everyone's super weak.
Okay, they can't. Hopefully he doesn't do the super attack again. This is fine. It's part of the strategy.
Well, now he'll have more HP than he started with because he only had like 8.
Yep, exactly. Alright. There we go.
It shall be engraved upon your soul.
You pretty much win now.
He might have a little bit of health left, and he'll probably do a super attack again. To be honest, this boss you can actually kill if you use a certain item on him immediately. Basically, he's a zombie, and you can. It's not like not just like some games where you can just use a regular Union Plume or Phoenix down to kill him. But I do have an item that basically just vanquishes zombie enemies in one hit. But I don't want to use it.
The old Doom Train.
Yeah.
Or not Doom Train. Is it Doom Train?
This
Is there one you can
one's
just kill
There's a
one hit
couple
with
of
that
Final
extra
Fantasy
Doom
bosses
Train?
you can do it on.
Everett.
Alright, so he didn't do a super attack again. That's good. Now, to be honest, some of those attacks probably would have stunned him if I didn't have that stun check on. Alright, you notice that each of my characters in the bottom there, first of all, they're weak, but they have those red flashing bars. They'll show up because they did their super attacks. What that means is I can't do super attacks right now. But
Let's see if the regular attacks do it.
combo alone should be able to kill him. There we go.
That was close. Came down to the last hit or so. And he's being a drama queen about it.
Yes.
How unskilled these beasts are.
I love the this ending music, like psychs
It's one of
me
my
up.
favorites. It's one of my favorite like battle results musics. It's just very peppy.
Yeah, it's
Also, just
It gets you pumped.
you mentioned this already, but I just really like the sprites. They're nice. All right, I have treasure chests. These are artifacts. They are property of Odin. If I'm a good Valkyrie, I would send them to Odin. This artifact is the property of Lord Odin. Return it, or valuation level will drop. Will you offer up the artifact to Lord Odin? No, I'm keeping it.
so you know a way around this.
These items have
So
various
this is the
effects.
motivation for doing the dungeon in the first place.
Yeah.
What is event EXP?
Basically, you get. Actually, this is another way to train up units. Like if you have a level 1 unit.
Oh, you
I
can
have
just put in a bunch of level 1s before opening all those chests.
no.
And then-
See, I have 100 or 1 million something EXP that I can use. So, like for example, that gray guy I just got, I could
Oh, it pools.
give
Yeah.
him EXP that way. But I'm just holding on to it.
Hero value with negative 65.
Yeah,
I've seen better days.
They start out with very bad hero values, and yes, it is negative. But see that evaluation on level 81? That's actually the in-game meter. If you're a bad enough Valkyrie and that goes like low enough, like to close to 0, that's when you can trigger the bad ending. And so keeping artifacts is one way to lower that value. And first of all, I had to run out of the dungeon the old-fashioned way, but it's not too long. So there are various ways your evaluation level will lower. If you send good enough units to Freya, that will raise your evaluation level, and if they're good enough, that basically offsets if you keep all the artifacts. Like, you might as well just keep all of them. You can manage.
But if you're planning on fulfilling those requests, might as well keep the artifacts.
Yeah, one thing about Valkyrie Profile that's a little bit obtuse is that it has multiple endings. I already mentioned the bad ending, but there actually is like a standard ending and a good ending. I mentioned this on the podcast that we did. The standard ending is basically, not to spoil anything specific, but if you're just acting like a good Valkyrie and do exactly as you're told and follow the rules and everything, you basically get the standard ending. However, there's a little bit more behind the scenes that is kind of hinted at here and there. And in order to do that, you actually can't be a perfect Valkyrie. You have to kind of like disobey rules here and there. And it kind of places Odin and Freya in a different light. They're not exactly villains, but you know, they have different motivations in what they have, what they might show outwardly. So it's actually a little bit obtuse to get that ending. And sometimes you might see people say, like, if you want to get the best ending in Valkyrie Profile, you pretty much have to follow a guide. And honestly, yeah, you kind of pretty much have to. I will say, on a second playthrough, which this was my second playthrough of the game, it makes a lot more sense. Like, oh, it makes sense why you have to do these things in this order to get it. But it's not that apparent the first time through. So it is a knock against the game. You kind of have to do these very specific things. Another thing that kind of plays into a role here, while every character has hero value, Valkyrie has seal value. My seal value is actually very low, which is actually what you need it to be to get the best ending. Okay. I won't say any more than that because it's a spoiler. But yeah, there's a couple of different meters you have to kind of pay attention to and keep track of, and because of that, that's why it's a bit obtuse.
It seems like the sort of game where on the middle school lunch table or whatever, people would have like different stories about who they're using or what scenes they saw or things like that.
I do think it actually is kind of interesting, like mechanically, like seal level has like a story meaning to what seal level is, and there are certain things you have to do to lower it that are like story important. And so I think it's like functionally interesting in a way, but it's just a little bit obtuse in terms of like, you need your seal level to be at this point by this point. So it's plus some normal, like in other games there might just be normal flags that you have to hit that trigger the best ending. So it's a little bit annoying, but it's there. By the way, the music changed just when you're on your way out. If you didn't notice, this is like your dramatic victory dungeon music. Yeah.
So they don't give you the quality of life to just auto exit, but they'll make it dramatic.
Some dungeons you can, but some you can't. That one you can't. All right.
And that took 2 periods?
Yep. Now...
And that's how the game flows, I suppose.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and do one more story section, like another vignette. This one is not, like, as a character one, maybe not one of the stronger ones, but it has some, like, larger story implications that I think are interesting. So I'm going to do that. It's in the city Krell something. Just got to remember exactly where that is. I think it's one of these upper ones, I'm pretty sure. There it is. So here's another,
one of the other ones that
here's another one that appeared
with.
at the beginning of the chapter that Valkyrie heard some basically murmurs of. So it's another 4 or 5 minute story thing here.
Are these characters like ones you've seen before?
No, actually this one is a little bit more standalone. There's like no further context to this other than what you're seeing here.
So this is like a Mulan type story.
Right, she's a woman in the Knight Brotherhood.
Do you know any details about like who localized this?
So this localization I think is pretty good for the time. There are some oddities here and there. There's actually one coming up here. Let me see.
I wasn't planning that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, recently we have been cleaning up the area around him. I feel like that would have been better said like cleaning up after his messes or something like that. It's kind of a weird way to phrase it. Anyways, the localization was done by Jeremy Blaustein, who did quite a few localizations of this time in this era. He did like Suikoden, for example, and Valkyrie Profile, a few other games that aren't coming to mind, but he's still active in the industry. But he's kind of one of the old guard localizers.
The OG.
Yeah, and you know, like for the most part, it's pretty good. But there are just a couple things here and there that are just a little bit weird. One thing I think this game does really well at is using that Norse mythology. Like, for instance, that Arngrim character that I'm using, his Japanese name is something like Aryuz, or something like that, but they localized it as Arngrim because in Norse mythology, Arngrim is like a figure, like a mythology character, and he's basically representing that. And there's a lot of Norse mythos that is basically packed into this. Anyways, if you weren't paying attention, there's a mage that's basically affiliated with the knights that's using forbidden magic that they're hoping to stop.
Magnus. Sounds like the name of an evil mage. You doomed your child and you named him that.
Yeah.
That a fact that's literally a spine with a skull on top of it?
Yes, it's basically just a skull and a spine, right? Yeah.
This is another wonderful combination of the music and the sprite work.
Yeah.
The animation when she was casting that.
Sprites are good.
I miss sprites. Oh, I get it. That creature's like a succubus, and her spell didn't work on the woman.
Genevieve is actually like kind of a boss in a few places in this game.
Oh, so Valkyrie interferes sometimes, or intervenes.
Yep. This is basically Valkyrie's theme song, by the way. So this is actually a really interesting line. So this is one of the... I like how this game tells its story. So this is one of those things that's sort of a spoiler, but not really. There are actually 3 different Valkyries, but the game never really states this outright for quite a while. It doesn't really become fully revealed until the end. But there are some snippets of this where Genevieve here says, was your armor light blue back then or black? I don't believe it was pale blue. And that's a reference that there's 2 other Valkyries out there. But Lenneth is actually not really aware of them, and neither is the player at this point. So it's kind of just hinting at that. Let's see. Yeah. Valkyrie has been ages. Yeah, it has just like some modern games, you can scroll back in text.
That's neat.
But I like how
Again,
she highlights there's some story things here that she sort of hints at being more than one Valkyrie when it hasn't been stated outright yet.
Yeah, but it doesn't hammer it over your head. It just allows you to think for yourself.
Come to me, Dark Warriors. Battle awaits us.
These bosses are more like event bosses and are kind of pathetic, to be honest.
Take that!
Again, got her on the last hit. One combo.
I think I hit with every attack, which is good.
I really like this theme. It's shown up a few times.
There's two different themes that are very similar that are played in these vignettes. Both have like this sort of chime and bells and flutes sort of instrumentation.
It's like
really nice.
like dreamlike or something like that. Oh shit. Oh, and then she told him her real name.
Mm-hmm. And once again, I kind of like how it doesn't actually show the scene where she reveals her real name to him. He just knows it, and you kind of infer from there that she trusted him with it.
Yeah, it's just smartly written. Like not talking just like word to word, but just presented.
The fact that he knew it, you just know that she trusted him with her real name, and it doesn't have to show that she revealed it to him. Otherwise, like directly. That's what I've said on the podcast. I think there's a nice economy of words in places.
Very somber though. These stories.
Yeah, like every vignette ends at the death. That's how the game works. So it is a little bit dreary, but there are underpinnings of other things, like relationships between sisters or people like that. All right, and she didn't have a dialogue with Jail like she did with Gray. Valkyrie didn't, but status. She's now in my party. Level 1 because I'm on hard mode.
Oh, I guess I didn't realize that the artwork here in the menu is different from the dialogue. I like it.
Yeah, like I said, good artwork. She's a sword user. She's level 1, so I probably won't use her, but...
Well, thanks for taking the time to show us this, because this is a game that I had heard, like I said at the top. Anyone who plays it seems to have a high opinion of it.
Yeah,
It's very unfortunate that there's only like the mobile version that's easily accessible.
Yeah, I think like I said earlier, that the hardest, like, it's a game I love, but it's hard to recommend, I think, because of things like, first of all, some people don't maybe not care for like the vignette style of storytelling where the story does eventually circle around to Valkyrie by like the last couple of chapters, but for the first half or 2/3 of the game, it's mostly about these vignettes with sort of like these things happening in the background, which I really like, but that may not be for everyone. And also this sort of chapter period structure where there is a limitation. It's not like a running clock, but on how much you can do and how much you can grind. You have to send enemy or units off to Freya every once in a while to have her fight the battle, and that affects your ratings. And then to get the best ending, you have to do very specific things to do that. So it's like when I play this game, I do reference a guide just to make sure I'm hitting all those triggers and doing all the things I need to get that best ending. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is, but I do think it's just inherently interesting anyway. But yeah, it's got a kind of a simple but unique battle system. There's a lot of progression systems under the hood in terms of what characters you're using.
Yeah, it doesn't really play like Star Ocean at all.
No,
doesn't seem like it.
Games like Indivisible kind of take influence in the battle system with their combo type things, and that game you could argue that Indivisible might actually have better comboing type mechanics than Valkyrie Profile has, but doesn't have as much in terms of under the hood stuff like weapons and stats and elements and accessories and things like that. But Indivisible has pretty good combat, comboing, timing stuff. So yep, that's Valkyrie Profile. It's a game that I wanted to revisit. It's actually interesting revisiting it after playing the prequel, which is on PS2, because some of those like hidden under the surface story elements you see here and there kind of poke their head out that on their own may not mean a whole lot, but after playing like the prequel, which kind of sets up a bunch of the stuff for this game, it kind of clicks a little more strongly. So hopefully Square Enix will take these games and port them to more modern platforms. Heck, just take the mobile port and put it on PC.
Yeah, like I don't need like a remake or a remaster, like just even a straight port. I'd be like,
update the UI a bit so it's not
PC.
like Chrono Trigger and need to be like patched 4 times, but still, it's a pretty good version of the game.
That was a saga.
Yeah, just
how well the mobile version would run in, like, say, an Android emulator.
Yeah, you can do that. Anyways, so this is our first. I think we're gonna call this video Classic Mode when we look at these classic games. This is our first Classic Mode video for RPG Site. We plan on doing these relatively once a week. Just various games that we'll look at, and some of them will be classics like this, some of them will be more modern games that are just newly released. We'll do some indie stuff, some big budget stuff. We'll see what happens. This is our first video, so let us know what you think, and we'll see you in the next video.
No, thanks for having me, and thanks for driving.
Yep.